Broads, today's episode is for the mature audience. We will discuss sex, sexual pleasure, and self-pleasuring. We recommend that if there are minors listening to this episode, make sure you inform your parents and listen with your parents. This is a learning experience. We want to be transparent in all things, and so if you feel uncomfortable with this episode, please revert to our other episodes and stay tuned for next week's show. In the meantime, buckle up, get your wig straight, and enjoy the show. I'm Queen ShanShan, and this is a broadcast podcast. Chicken orzo soup, burrata caprese, meatball ricotta toast, calamaretti? No, these aren't wigs I'm talking about. These are brand new dishes at Ma's Italian Kitchen, located at 267 North Pass Avenue in Burbank, California. The phone number is at Ma's Italian Kitchen is 818-567-2288. They provide private dining and they also cater private parties. Michelle created an amazing menu, and I want you to tell them Queen ShanShan sent ya. Hunty! Broads, hey girl, hey. Welcome to a new episode of A Broadcast Podcast. You can now listen to all 13 episodes on Season 1 and all major podcast platforms. We now have listeners in Egypt and Philippines. So, Alan wa Salan and Mabu hey!
How dare you?
How dare We welcome all broads. Thank you, Egypt, and thank you, Philippines. This week, put on your headphones. Get real, comfortable, because we are going to get deep. Breathe deep, and keep your ears and your minds open. We have Kendra Waldman. We're going to talk about who is Kendra, how I met her. We met at Fred Talks, Kendra's story, and the introduction of Suzie. The film industry and the Me Too and Time's Up movement. Who is Suzie? Sexual body awareness and the stigma of masturbation. The infamous Madonna Minute and Just the Facts, ma'am. All this after the break. Hey, broads. We have a brand new sponsor, and it's tax season. Advanced Business Solutions is a family-owned business located in Inglewood, California. Let me tell you something. They come with over 20 years collectively of professional experience for tax preparation, payroll services, translations, business filings, mobile notary, and accounting services. They have been keeping me on the straight and narrow for over 12 years. I trust Jessica and Marian Asnaya with my money, and so should you. Contact them today at 310-915-9800 or email them at abtaxsolutions@yahoo.com. They can be found on Facebook at Advanced Business Solutions. Tell them Queen ShanShan sent ya. Hunty! What's cooking, Kendra? Hey! Kendra is a writer, producer, actress, and you kind of started your career in co-hosting a cooking show alongside Bobby Flay on the Food Network, which is my favorite channel. Her acting skills came in handy when you had to whip up a gourmet meal on the air. Do you even cook?
Not really.
And so you were cooking a meal alongside Bobby Flay. Yes. What was the meal about, really? What were you cooking?
We were cooking, every episode was something different. It would be fish or chicken or a pasta. And I remember it was, I knew I was going to be on camera with my hands, close-ups of of the hands, stirring the pot.
Yeah.
Literally, I stirred the pot all right. It was so obvious that I didn't know how to flip the chicken. And so my acting skills came into good use, and it was some sort of sauteed chicken. But he's wonderful.
Is he a good guy?
He's such a good guy. He came to a birthday party of mine.
Oh,
he is an incredible man.
I'm going to YouTube that and search it for Kendra Waldman with Bobby Flay, correct?
Yes, and you know what? I can find a clip.
Yay!
And maybe even send it to you.
We can put it up. Cool. We'll put it on the newsletter.
Nice.
But real quick, Edward and I talked about Agent Orange. We talked about gut health. Our episode was called Poop Anxiety. It was episode 2. And you have actually a heartfelt story. Real quick, can you lead us about that? About your dad and Agent Orange and the chemicals we have in our food, real quick?
Yes, absolutely. I'm happy to talk about this. I wrote a script. It's a passion project. I'm a writer, but I wrote this script about a personal story that was very, very traumatic for me. I lost my dad to Agent Orange. He served in the Vietnam War from 67 to 69. He was in the Air Force. He loaded the planes with Agent Orange, which is a dioxin. Now, it's something that was created by Monsanto. I'm sure many people know what Monsanto is. They are responsible for GMO'd foods and all sorts of other good things.
Terrible for the gut.
Absolutely.
Other good things that are bad for you. So basically, my father, when he inhaled this dioxin, it's scientifically called, it's a defoliant, and what it would do, it would basically, they would spray it. He would load the planes for 12 hours a day. The planes would go up in the air. They would spray it in the north. The Viet Cong then had nowhere to hide because the defoliant would basically melt the leaves off the trees. That's when they built the Coochie tunnels. But this dioxin scientifically is called 2,4,5-T, 2,4-D. I just call it bullshit, is what I call it.
Get it.
But so from 60, so he served. He basically ingested it. He inhaled it for 3 years, and he didn't know. Why would he think that he's doing anything wrong? He's there to serve for his country, and he was proud of it. And he was 18 years old, and he was so proud. I see these photos of my dad in his Air Force uniform. He had no idea he was inhaling a toxin that would kill him 40 years later. And he died. He died at 58. And so there's a gestation period. It goes into your system. It changes your DNA. It changed basically when I was born. I was born as an Agent Orange baby. And we have autoimmune disorders and so forth. So it's a very serious issue.
You told us what we should look forward to in our what should we look for in our fruits and vegetables in terms of labeling?
So there's, I try to stay away from GMO'd food, especially any by Monsanto.
Absolutely.
And so I always avoid the PLU number.
What is that?
That is the price. I think it's the price lookup number, but it doesn't have to do with price. But it's the PLU number. If there's an 8 in front of the 4-digit number on an apple, when you go and get your Macintosh, or you go, not as in the computer, but when you go get to your Macintosh, your Fuji, your Gala, however you want to say it, tomato. But when you go get it, avoid the 8.
Got it.
Okay.
Avoid
That's a good
the
tip.
8. Avoid the 8, people.
Avoid the 8
Avoid
on
the
your
8.
vegetables
Don't eat
or
the
fruits.
Don't eat the 8.
Don't eat the 8.
Don't eat the 8.
Don't eat the 8. Thanks, Kendra.
Yeah.
I am so excited to introduce this brand new sponsor, Michelle Castillo. She's a friend of mine, but she's also an estate planning attorney, and her practice focuses on helping families for the future. Her areas of practice is estate planning, trusts, wills, healthcare directives, power of attorneys, guardianship nominations, trust administration, probate, and asset protection. She has over 15 years experience in the real estate, mortgage, and insurance industry, and she's a good friend of mine. Contact Michelle Castillo today. She's also bilingual in English and Spanish. Her phone number is 818-384-2686. Once again, 818-384-2686. And her website is michellecastillolaw.com. Tell her Queen ShanShan sent ya. Hunty! Welcome, broads. We are here with Kendra Waldman. Like I said before, she is an actress, writer, producer, and now author, and we are going to talk about her new and upcoming book, My Playdates with Suzie. And she also has a website called myplaydateswithsuzie.com. Now, let's get into it. I recently met Kendra at an event my friend Steve Glenn hosts every once in a while. He used to host it every month, but it's called Fred Talks. It's kind of a derivative of TED Talks. But the acronym means Friends Relating, Entertaining, and Discussion. And it's a gathering of open-minded people who meet at Steve's house, and we talk about all kinds of things. There's 5 or 6 speakers, and it could be one night about sex, it could be one night about health, it could be one night of people just performing, singing, and dancing, and it's pretty amazing.
It's like a typical night at my house.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, it's really fun.
You should have been there.
It's really, really fun.
Yeah.
And so the night that I met Kendra was a night, it was literally last month in February.
February 13th.
February 13th, okay.
Night before
great.
Valentine's Day.
Yeah,
That's
and
why he
the
did
theme was sex and love.
Yes.
And it was, people had an opportunity to talk about sex or love. And here comes Miss Kendra, okay? Kendra, before we even get about the Playdates with Suzie, because we're going to talk about Miss Suzie, okay?
Okay.
You have been in the entertainment industry for quite some time. Can you just give us a little a minute on what it was like to be an actress, or what it is like to be an actress and a writer, and what came to be where you are now?
Yeah, so I grew up acting. I think out of the womb, I did a flip in my mom's belly. She had to have a C-section because I flipped over and I did some sort of acrobatic move. So I've always been,
Wow.
On the stage doing things like that. I went to an art school growing up, like at the type of fame school, and I eventually, and I went to college and got a degree in something very academia related, but then I went right back to my DNA and went right back to my right brain,
Mm-hmm.
and
Something for the parents and then something for yourself. Is that what you went to academia for your parents?
no, because I have a degree. No, I loved what I majored in.
Okay.
Love it.
What was it?
It was
Can you share?
a math degree.
A math degree?
Oh my god.
Oh my god! What?
I love mathematicians.
I do,
Oh my
I
gosh,
do.
great.
It's crazy. When I
Great.
say it, I'm still like,
Oh
it's
my
such
God.
another lifetime for me. It was another
Beautiful
chapter.
and smart.
Beautiful and smart.
Oh, you
Yep.
guys are too
Yeah.
sweet. I mean, it was just another lifetime for me. And so, another chapter. But so I went right back, after my senior year doing Eigenvectors. I went to New York and got into acting and did off-Broadway and did soap opera and did all sorts of, fun thespian stuff. And then thought, wow, I've plateaued in New York City. I'm going to go to LA. So I came to LA and I worked some incredible actors along the way. And I think I got to a point where I felt like I was steadily working, but I felt like often I would be on set and I would be delivering lines, and I felt kind of like a puppet when the writing wasn't good. And I thought, I can only be someone's marionette for so long,
Sure.
and then I realized I had a voice. I always knew I had a voice, but I realized that I could actually use my voice.
Right.
And so then I started writing, which is, when I got into writing my dad's script about him, and then Suzie was born. But yeah, so now I want to tell stories that move, matter, inspire.
Well, I have a
That's
question for you.
rare though, right? She's a writer and she knows math.
So I'm left brain and right brain. It's a little crazy. I have this battle of the
I love the
hemispheres.
stand up.
You got the creative and you
I
have the
do.
analytical.
And they are at
Yep,
odds with each other. Trust
absolutely.
me. They just go head to head.
So I have a
most
question for
times.
you. Speaking of you being, you want to have a word, you want to have your voice heard.
Yes.
Let's talk about briefly about the hashtag Me Too movement and the hashtag Time's Up movement. We have seen all kinds of stories coming out in the last 2 or 3 years, from Harvey Weinstein to Kevin Spacey to R. Kelly to all these people being outed because of their sexual, being a sexual predator, being a sexual harassment. What are your thoughts about the industry now?
I have some very specific thoughts about this. I think that, first of all, I think there's a misnomer when it comes to the word sexual harassment, because I think that harassment doesn't always feel like harassment, right? And you can look at the Michael Jackson case, and they didn't know they were being sexually harassed because it felt good to them. They're kids. They didn't know. They didn't know any better. Now, in hindsight, when I was 24 and I got out here, I was definitely sexually harassed. I didn't know it at the time because it didn't hurt. I didn't feel abused. Basically, a very big producer, who will remain nameless,
Okay.
bought me lingerie with not just beautiful lingerie, but it had my initials embroidered on the panties.
What?
Now, does that feel like harassment?
He already entitled you. He already had to title you.
He was trying to get into Suzie. Do you?
It really was. Not Suzie. And Susie's like, go away, nobody's home.
No.
And I will tell you, because I was so in touch with Suzie, who later we'll get into more details
Absolutely.
about, I said, this man, I don't care how powerful he is. He promised me parts and this and that. And I thought, wow. But I thought, I know myself and I know who Suzie is. And I didn't accept his advances. And needless to say, he never accepted my calls again either. But the irony is, he probably wouldn't have cast me anyhow.
Interesting.
So at the end of the day, Suzie was put first, and I knew what was right from wrong, and yeah. But I think what's important is that with this Me Too movement is that harassment doesn't always feel like harassment, because it was only in hindsight over a decade later where I said I was absolutely harassed, absolutely. Him showing up at my door when we were supposed to meet at the restaurant. Him walking in with a box from Fredericks of Hollywood. That's enticing. That's glamorous to
Yes,
a
it is.
24-year-old woman
Of
who
course
comes
it
to
is.
Hollywood to make it as an actress.
Of course.
And you were probably, the sad thing is, you were probably the fifth one that week.
Oh,
that
Of
you did.
course.
Or that day.
Probably
It
that
just-
day.
or that day.
Yeah, that
It's a numbers
afternoon.
game for him.
You know? So, yeah, me too.
Me too, and time's up for sure.
Absolutely.
Hey, Edward,
Yeah,
can I ask you a personal question?
anything. Go ahead.
Do you ever get that not so fresh feeling in your beard?
Oh, yeah. Oh, have you seen my beard?
Well, I know of a local company that's called Napoli Naturals that offers do-it-yourself skincare and hair care products. And they are the bomb. And it'll freshen that beard right up in a jiffy with no chemicals.
I love all that.
The shop is called Napoli Naturals, and it's right here in Los Angeles, California. Sharon and Umar combined natural products like jojoba oils and coconut oils and tea tree oils that will freshen your skin right up and make it polished. Visit them today at Napoli Naturals or go shop directly at their website at napolinaturals.com.
And tell them that Queen ShanShan sent you hunting.
Her mother caught her masturbating at the ripe age of 6 and reprimanded her for it. Her parents called her vulva Suzie. After that memorable and traumatic night, Kendra never looked at her Suzie and self-love the same again. Through hard work, she found peace in her past and talks about how childhood masturbation was her meditation and got her through the tough times of her parents' divorce. Here goes the introduction of Suzie. Kendra, who is Suzie?
She's a powerful, badass girl.
All right, well, let's talk about her.
AKA my vulva. And for people who don't know what a vulva is, because I know some people have to Google that, it is my vagina.
Yes.
It's more than my vagina. It's the whole region down there, really.
Dudes are probably thinking like, oh, a Volvo, like a car. Oh yeah, she's gonna talk about Volvo.
Volvo!
Suzie can ride things, sure,
Right.
but
Of course she can.
so, I think what's funny is that I got caught, when I tell people this story, I got caught masturbating at the age of 6, and everyone goes, oh, you were masturbating at 6? And I said, listen, I was masturbating at 4. I just didn't get caught till I was 6.
Oh my gosh.
So I was always ready to rock and roll with my vulva. Now, the thing about it that I think is so important is that this was not a directed masturbation. It's called non-directed masturbation. So this wasn't sexual for me. This wasn't where I was imagining some sort of scenario in my head. I was 4. I was 6. I was 8. This wasn't where I was having feelings about some person. What it was for me is that it felt good. That's all I knew. And so for me, it was
like a massage good or like a you feel good when you have go for a run? Like what kind of
Yes,
good?
because now we know that, endorphins are released. So when you have an orgasm, endorphins are released. So doctors say that masturbation is great for health. Masturbation is great for many things, and we can talk about that later, but, prostate cancer, it can help cure prostate cancer because the more you ejaculate, the more you're releasing.
Oh my God.
God.
I didn't know that.
I must be cancer free.
Oh, yeah. This is going to get guys to just go at it.
I didn't know that.
Absolutely.
Oh my God.
It can also curb menstrual cramps. So
Really? Well, I don't have a uterus anymore. I had my hysterectomy 2 years ago. So, I don't
can't
have
use that excuse.
I had menstrual cramps a lot. That's the reason why I have had the hysterectomy. But I want to talk about you had self-awareness about your body at 6 years old. When I was 6 years old, I was playing with my Barbies. I didn't know about masturbation. I didn't know the word about masturbation. Now, I'll give it to you this way. My parents were very open in terms of talking to us when we were an early age about sex, about sex before marriage, sex after marriage, the procreation of children. But we didn't get to talk about masturbation until our teens, because that's when at the time, science said teens with self-pleasure or self-discovery before their adolescence years. So my parents talked to me and my brother maybe when we were 10, 11 years old about masturbation and the effects of it. You found out about it at 4 or 5 or 6 years old.
I did,
but you didn't know
I got caught.
Can I ask you a question? Why did your mom call your vulva or your vagina Suzie?
I think I was giving Suzie a lot of attention, and instead of using the word vagina in public, she would say Suzie. You're touching Suzie. You're touching Suzie.
Edward, what would you name your penis?
Fred.
Fred?
Yeah.
That's my stepdad's name. Let's
I think
or Ron.
Fred or Ron. That's
Yeah.
what you name your penis?
Easy to remember. Short.
Okay.
It's short.
I think I'm gonna
Yeah.
No double syllable.
I think I would name my vulva, my vagina, LaQueefa.
Oh!
Well, come on. We all had
We have a
some.
queef.
We have queef
We
to the
always-
time. I have to
thought
put
that's
la
what you
because
were
it makes
going
it,
for.
makes it fancy. So I
Right.
think my
And it makes
vagina
it
be
feminine, la.
my play dates with LaQueefa.
I love
Okay.
it.
Okay.
I love it.
Okay.
I love it.
All right. We're gonna name that.
That's it.
That's it. So
Mine's more like my, I don't know. It's
Your-
not like
your
it's not
next door
like
neighbor?
It's like a play day. It's like my 10 minutes with Fred.
My 10 minutes.
We should call my penis Fred and Ron. Fred and Ron.
Fred and Ron. Wow, let's talk about
Yeah.
menage a trois.
Exactly.
Anyways, so Suzie. So your mom named it Suzie. What is the reason why they couldn't call it the technical name to you? As a 6-year-old?
That's a great question, and I think when I ask her these things, and we'll talk about when I got caught and this and that, but when I ask her these things, she says, I didn't know any better. There were no YouTube videos, right? There were no how-to videos. There was a library, but there was no education out there. And even in sex ed class, when I was 13, we didn't talk about masturbation. We talked about sex ed. Sex
That's true.
education,
That's
but
so
they
true.
didn't include masturbation and
That's so
sex.
true. I remember I was in 5th grade. We had sex education.
Yep.
They didn't talk about masturbation.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. So they called it Suzie. My mother personified it. I don't know why, but now when I go around and I do this piece, and I've done it at Comedy Central stage, and I've done it at various places where I met you as well. I did it in Greece last summer, and people come up to me. I've had people come up to me in tears. This one mother came up and she said, I shunned my daughter last week. And I'm going to go home and we're going to give her a ceremony and we're going to name it. And I'm going to name it Emerald.
Emerald.
And I said,
Wow,
that's
that's a
so
jewel.
shiny
Wonderful.
and beautiful. I love it. And I had people come up and say, where I met you, actually, I had someone come up and she said, I'm 35. I haven't thought about this.
Let's talk about that real quick because I didn't know you. This was a month ago.
Yep.
We're in a room of 107 people. And here comes Kendra, gorgeous woman.
Aw.
And you talk about my play dates with Suzie. So we're like intrigued. Who the hell is Suzie? And it's about masturbation. It's about you finding your vulva and making sure, you had, what did it say? You said that you played with her, you humped.
I humped bedroom
You
doors.
humped bedroom doors. You humped
yeah.
your school desks.
School desk,
your
the
bed
remote
post.
control, the canopy bed, you name it.
So imagine, Edward.
Fascinating. I'm just
Imagine
like, why more?
I'm sitting down and I'm looking at everybody's staring at Kendra like, what the hell are we talking about it? a kid masturbating, and it was. I'm gonna be honest with you, Kendra. We were cringing. People were cringing. I was cringing. I was
Yes.
uncomfortable.
I could tell. I felt
listening to your story, but I was also like listening to your story, and and we'll talk about that in a minute. I came from a very conservative Christian background.
Mm-hmm.
My mother, if I told my mother, Mom, I was playing with my private parts, I don't think my mom would yell at me, but she would say, it's a no-no, Shannon.
Mm-hmm.
That's a no-no.
Which is what my mother said when she said, honey, if you keep playing with Suzie, you're never going to get pregnant.
Wow.
Is what she said to me. And I thought, pregnant? I thought you needed two people. I was so confused. And, and I'm just with a bedpost and I'm with a remote control and a desk. And all of a sudden, when I got caught, my world turned upside down. Because all of a sudden, Susie's alone. And Suzie is who made me, she was my best friend. She's who made me feel so good. She basically was my cure for anxiety. When my endorphins were released, so you ask about the massage, it was, the only way I can explain it is that there were stars coming out of my, out of my ears. You see in one of those cartoons.
You're like,
exactly.
Oh, yeah. It's like flowing,
and
it's like a river flowing out of
good.
it.
It was self-soothing, and it got me through my anxiety when my parents were getting divorced.
Okay.
That's all I knew. It was
How
self-soothing.
old were you when your parents were divorced?
I was 9. I mean, I was doing it earlier just because I felt anxiety about certain things, and
So there was a correlation definitely between the two.
It intensified around that time, absolutely. But I was doing it before that at 4, before I knew about any sort of imminent divorce. But I had always had anxiety as a child, and I still deal with it as an adult. And masturbation helps. I'm not gonna lie.
You said you were caught doing this with your mom.
I was caught. I was on the bedpost, and my father actually caught me. I was humping the canopy bedpost, and my Kermit rug was there, and I was having a grand old time. And this was a year or two after I was teaching my friends at birthday parties how to do it.
What?
I was,
Right.
You were
I was
teaching your girlfriend?
I would go to birthday parties and, we'd
Oh,
go in the
yeah,
bedroom.
we know, too.
Oh, that was like 6. And I would show, okay, you put one leg here and one leg here, and you pull
Shut
up on
it.
the handle. And, I was doing that, and I was humping my desk, and I was always in the back row because my name begins with W. But then when my couldn't see, my eyes were so bad, my teacher moved me to the front row, and that was not good.
Suzie wasn't happy about
no
that.
not happy. Desk humping is not good. You don't want an audience behind you. And but I kept doing it, and then when I got caught, my dad walked in, and all of a sudden I fell to the ground, and I remember I was just like eye to eye with Kermit. The rug, I was just staring at Kermit, and he looked at me kind of like, what
Did you feel shame?
the fuck did you just do? I felt shame because my dad, his look was just one of dread, and it was almost like Kermit's face on the rug metamorphosized into this, what the fuck
What
are
did your
you
dad
doing?
say to you?
He didn't say much. He kind of shut the door, and then that night is when my mom sat me down and she told me I'd never get pregnant, and it was really a really rough time. That's when I started feeling the shame. That's when I started having secret playdates with Suzie. I do whatever I could to have her alone because, I wouldn't do it at my desk anymore. We'd be watching Alf, and I'd sneak the remote control underneath. I mean,
So, okay, so since this is
Monday night. I remember that show was on Monday.
Monday nights.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You said Alf?
Alf,
Yes.
the show Alf.
I thought you said Elf the movie.
Alf.
Alf the show.
Alf the show.
Alvin Shumwitz. That's his name. Since this is a podcast and give us, if you will, and you don't have to, but
Please.
what does that look like? I mean, are you clothed? A, were you clothed doing this, and your father walks in, and B, because I'm getting the impression that if you're in class, you can do it discreetly.
That's right.
So
question.
it's a great question. It's a very, I think the more that parents understand that this can happen in any way, shape, or form. So for me, I was fully clothed. I didn't need clothes, but again, I wasn't doing anything wrong, and I didn't know because my parents didn't talk about it. That day I had gotten home from dance class. I was in my pink tights and black leotard.
Okay.
Not a lot of coverage out there, but
Right.
it was great for the canopy. And at school I would just hump the desks. Obviously I didn't listen. I did it in 5th grade in gym class. We were required to do pull-ups. There was this phys ed the Ronald Reagan Presidential Award, and the boys had to do pull-ups and the girls just had to hang from the bar.
Okay.
And I would hang from the bar, and you only had to do 30 seconds, but I kept going and going and going because it felt so good. It's like when you're at the gym. Now you're gonna notice it when you go to the gym.
I
Now
know,
everyone's
I'm
gonna
like-
notice.
I'm like-
You know that machine where you pull yourself up for your abs and
Yes.
you hang?
Yes.
Oh, girl.
Really?
Boy. Oh, yeah, that thing feels so good. So you can go to the gym and you just hang there and you'll feel it in your abs. So this was kind of similar. Now you're going to watch all the people on it and see
Oh my God,
doing it.
totally.
But
Totally.
but if you're in touch with your abdomen and your first chakra and all of that, the sex root chakra area, I just kept hanging. So I got awarded, most athletic fifth grader. Not
Look at
because
you.
I was athletic, but because I was orgasming hanging from the
Shut
pull-up
up.
bars.
Oh my God. In fifth grade.
In fifth grade?
In
Yeah.
fifth grade.
Yeah.
But as an adult, you can experience it too. I mean, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I could go to the gym right now if I wanted and hang from that and do it for sure, and no one would know.
That is
I've
like-
gotten very good at that.
She's got very good at it.
Yeah.
So we're gonna get more into this obviously, but you pinpointed through a message about you have a child's book. This is actually you're developing a children's book, a children for adults as well. A children's book for adults actually.
Yes,
So
it's-
the adults, parents can help guide their children into this awareness.
Yes, this book is not for kids. It's
it.
for parents to learn more about how to deal with their kids. Because for me, the shame that affected me, that I carried with me for so long, the guilt, it could have been avoided. And I don't blame my mom. She didn't know any better. I love my mom. My mom, supports me talking out about Suzie. Just very proud she named it Suzie, But we joke about it. But it's very important that parents know that there is nothing wrong with this, and this is what it may look like, and this is what it may look like, and this is what it may look like. Because at the end of the day, masturbation for me was meditation.
Okay. That's good to know. That's good.
It was meditation. It got me out of my head and into my body.
What is the message that you want to relay to your audience right now?
I think what's most prominent for me is that I want to prevent parents from making the same mistakes my parents did. And it's so easy. Listen, why is it okay when we talk about sex ed and this and that? Why do we not talk about loving ourselves in sex ed? I think it's important. There's not one single negative thing that can go wrong for masturbation. Nothing. Now, if you're skipping school and you're skipping work, that's another story.
Correct.
So that's the first thing. There's nothing wrong with self-love.
But it's okay for kids to get on a video game and shoot up the world.
Exactly.
Right. It's okay for them to use guns and do all that.
The
Right.
hypocrisy is
Exactly.
Can't
But
blinding.
you can't love yourself.
yourself.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, good point, Edward.
It's a great point. Thank you, Eddie. Eddie,
rough
Ron.
night.
What was the other name?
Fred.
Fred and Ron.
Yeah.
And then, too, it's realizing that my childhood masturbation was meditation for me. And it literally got me through. Not all kids want to talk about it in therapy. Not all kids know how to meditate. It just felt good. It was self-soothing. There was nothing wrong with it. And three, as an adult, my goodness, it's made my sex life incredible. Because I know what Suzie likes and doesn't like.
Yeah.
But I'll save that
Hello.
for later.
So I have a little soundbite that I have with my parents, and this is a surprise to you. A surprise to Edward. Have you listened to this, Edward, yet?
I have not.
So-
I know you sent it to me, but I was like,
I, again, come from a very conservative family upbringing. And so I visited them yesterday, and I had the conversation about masturbation. And this is what they had to say.
did they just sign the disclaimer? And, we have the legal rights.
We have the legal rights, and my parents, for God's sakes.
Okay.
By the way, my dad is 79, and my mom is 78.
Okay.
So I have my mom and dad here, and I'm asking them a point-blank question about masturbation and their thoughts about when they were children. Mom, did you self-pleasure yourself? Did you masturbate? What are your thoughts on masturbation?
No, I didn't do that. I didn't do that, but I was molested by, he's dead now.
Well, I hope so.
but he molested probably all the girls in there. They never said anything, but I'm quite sure he didn't just bother me. But there was a point in time where I just said no.
Now, do you think because he molested you, you didn't feel sexually attractive when you were younger, or you didn't want to touch yourself or pleasure yourself because you felt a different way about yourself, or was it a religious reason?
Well, as I grew older, it was for religious leaders because that kind of thing was permitted in the religious organization I was in, because we're told, the Bible tells us to quit touching the unclean thing.
What does the Bible say? Speak up, Mom.
The Bible tells us to quit touching the unclean thing.
How is our vagina, our vulva, our penises an unclean thing when God created that for us?
No, but because it's for the wrong purpose. Sexual activities are mainly for not just for bearing children, but it's also you have to keep yourself clean in God's eyes, and not be playing around with things that are not acceptable in Jehovah's eyes. And so we have to start at an early age using self-control and not getting involved.
But if you're a 16, 15, 14, 11-year-old girl or boy, and you're self-discovering and it feels good to yourself, why is that a bad thing?
Because it's unacceptable in God's eyes.
Well,
We
a
don't
12-year-old or 11-year-old may not know or care about what's in God's eyes because they're children.
But as they grow older,
But they're children then.
they still have to. Because I've sensed a right or wrong when I was that age, and because I was molested many times by a man that my mom permitted to stay in the house, and he paid her a fee, and so then she bought groceries for us because she had 5 children. Actually, later on, it became 6 children to feed and had bills to pay, and there was no man in the house other than this person paying fee for having a place to.
Okay? So I want to come back to that. So you felt so because you weren't really religious. Obviously, you were a Baptist at that time. But when you started to study the Bible, you felt that masturbation said it was wrong to touch yourself.
Well, not basically in that frame of mind. It didn't say that, but as I grew to maturity, I knew that was involved. That kind of activity was unacceptable, and so you break away from that kind of thing, and even though because you could see where that type of activity was leading, and so. At that time, I just made up my mind that no, this is going to have to stop.
What about you, Dad?
Well, yeah, but didn't have a lot of activity.
Move closer.
Huh? Oh, keep talking?
Talk louder, Dad.
Huh? Talk louder. Okay. All right. Well, yeah, can't think of, maybe 17, 16, somewhere, in there might have been sexually active.
But you did masturbate when you were younger.
I don't know if that's what you call it, just
Self-discovery.
yeah,
What's the difference? Self-pleasuring and masturbating is the same thing.
I can't think of a way.
You got to remember.
Yeah, that's part of it.
All right, but you feel biblically that because God says we shouldn't pleasure ourselves, we shouldn't pleasure ourselves, and that's how you raised me and Theron.
Right.
Okay.
Is that how we raised you?
Yes, Dad.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's what we basically believe. I'm not very vocal, what I say, but I think probably that's the best way of looking at it.
So you guys still feel that same way because of what the Bible says?
Oh yeah, we still feel the same way. Of course, as you grow older and study and talk to people, teachers and things like that, people that are guiding young people, then you reason that this doesn't seem right, that I should be doing this, and then you start correcting yourself and staying away from such things like that, because you can't. And then when I studied the Bible, I could see that kind of activity was not acceptable in God's eyes, and so you have to break away from it. And, you have to be strong enough to break away from that type of thing, so you can live your life in harmony with the Bible, because you want God to accept you on a basis.
And that's what leads to a lot of people's guilt, Mom, though. That's what comes to people who are sexual or quote unquote sexual deviants, priests in the Catholic Church who are molesting little boys, who are sexually celibate because they don't have sex. The Bible says don't masturbate, and if you're a priest, you can't have sex, and unfortunately they rape these little boys. So there's one spectrum on the end and the other spectrum on the end. Yeah, then you got rapists and sexual predators and molesters, like what happened to you, because maybe they felt that they were guilty when they were young to not masturbate and led them to have this copulation of sexual frustration. But I want to thank you both for being open.
I hope I gave you some.
Well, Dad, we don't talk about this stuff, but, this podcast that I have allows us to open up conversations and communication. So thank you for sharing your opinion. So, Kendra, I love my parents. I love them to death. And what we heard is what I was raised from. I was raised from very strict conservative parents who said, don't have sex before marriage. Do not masturbate. Do not touch yourself because it is unclean in God's eyes. Now, as a child of billions, how we were raised this way, let's be honest, from Christianity, the root of Christianity, even the Muslim doctrine, even the Jewish doctrine. These are three huge major religious sects of the world that have said masturbation is wrong. Because of that, we have a society in America that looks upon sexual awareness as a sin, sexual discovery as a sin. As I told you on the phone a couple days ago when I went to Europe, and you can attest to this, and Edward can attest to this. I'm in Europe all the time. I'm switching on a TV one day. This is literally last year when I was in Italy. I'm switching on the TV. I'm going to bed. It's maybe like 11 o'clock, 10 o'clock at night, whatever. I'm switching on the TV, and all of a sudden I see 4 people having sex. Full-on, buck-ass naked. Of course. All the private parts in my face and everything.
Primetime television.
Everything.
Prime time. And I'm thinking,
Daytime,
wait a minute.
primetime,
Did
yeah.
I order Sphinctrovision when I got in the hotel?
I think it charged me.
Did I pay the extra $15
Nope,
to get
it's
this
free.
extra sauce on my TV?
The local channel.
And I'm thinking, wait a minute. And so I'm just like watching. Of course, I'm watching. I'm thinking, I'm looking at 4 people having sex. Then all of a sudden I see a man and woman pleasuring themselves, masturbating, and I'm like, yes, work, right?
Work, yes.
And I'm getting this for free?
Uh-huh.
The Europeans look at sex and look at sexual openness different than Americans, which is why Americans have the most leading in sexual predators, rapists, molesters that are in jail. We are a nation of masses that don't want to talk about what you and I are talking about right now. I know I'm going to get some phone calls on this podcast. I'm going to get some emails, maybe some great positive feedback, and some people are like, oh my God, I can't believe you talked about this on your podcast. I'm going to get some heat. But you know what? Bring on the heat, because we're here to talk about a broad perspectives, a broad opinions for a reason. Kendra, I saw your face light up, and you're like shocked what my parents had to say.
Well, first of all,
welcome to our world.
Yeah,
Welcome to my world.
First of all, my heart, bless their heart for being so open to answer those questions.
Yeah, we have to applaud that.
That's
Put the applause sign on that one.
That's a big round of applause.
I was a little nervous asking my parents that yesterday.
Yeah, that's out of their comfort zone, and I think this topic is out of a lot of people's comfort zone. So I always acknowledge that it's not as easy to talk about this stuff, as it is for me and you both.
Yeah.
And I will absolutely agree that I lived in Europe. I lived in Brussels for a couple of years. And I remember I would be on the train and I'd go by and there would be billboards.
Oh, wow.
And it would be breasts or it would be whatever it was. And I was like, what is this for? And it would be for like a men's suit company,
Right.
you know?
Yeah.
But you come here, we don't have breasts on billboards. What do we
No.
have? We have guns.
We have guns.
Now,
we have guns.
what kills people? Breasts or guns?
Wow.
Good
Yeah, that's a good
question.
point.
Just curious.
Yep,
point.
good question.
Just curious.
First time I was in Europe, I'll just age myself because we do this on the show. It was 1994. I was 24 years old, and I was in Germany and went to the grocery store, checking out, in the line to go through. There was porno magazines. They're
magazines.
like tabloids, like we have the tabloids and People and all this
Yeah,
stuff.
full on, not labeled,
No.
just out there like regular
They're
magazines.
just like, here it is on full display for anyone, even kids.
Yeah,
In the
to check
checkout
out.
aisle.
Yeah, to check out.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay,
yeah.
Germany, you go ahead with your
Okay,
business.
right, Germany,
and
right,
your
Italy,
stuff,
right,
all your
France.
fetishes.
You know, but
Absolutely.
it's also kind of, without getting too off topic, it's also
Yeah.
like they can drink at 18, and
That's true.
I'm not saying that's right or wrong. I'm just
Right.
saying, but because of it, they don't binge drink in colleges like they do here.
That's
Exactly.
true.
So it's kind of, they're very sexually open, and so I think that's what happens here is that we are it's such a closeted country about it that then people do it behind closed doors, and then you get into trouble. you
That's
know?
right. That's right.
So I think that the more open we can be and the more aware we can be, the higher power we have.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I have a
with
question
all of
for
it.
you.
Yeah.
Are you married or single?
I am not single. I am not married.
Okay.
I'm a hybrid. I'm seeing someone.
Okay.
Oh, cool.
Yes.
And how's that going along?
It's going great because it's funny, he watched the Suzie piece that I did at Comedy Central. And, as you know, like I've done it before at a comedy place. They laughed. I did it when you said people were squirming in their seats, people didn't know how to react. I think because people play off of each other, if one person's uncomfortable, the next person's uncomfortable. But he watched it alone. He didn't have an audience and he just loved it. And he goes, I hope I can meet Suzie one day.
Oh, and he has met Suzie
Oh, he's
multiple
met
times.
Oh,
Suzie.
they've met.
Okay.
I feel that they're good
met
friends,
Suzie.
right?
Are they good friends now?
Yes, we're all pretty good
Does
friends.
he have a name?
Yeah, does he have a name for
his?
his little friend?
No, and I haven't named it yet because he's very shy.
Aw,
He's
well,
very shy. But
Maybe
we'll
he'll
get
name
there.
it Melvin or something.
The next play date,
Or
we'll
Sam.
get there.
Oh,
Susie and Sam.
Suzie and
Suzie and Sam. I like that. I'm gonna
So
use that.
I have a question for you because you're in a relationship. Have you okay, we're gonna use the word masturbation because let's be honest, let's use the word masturbation. Has it been a deterrent in your relationship?
Absolutely not. Well, you know what? I'm going to back up because if I'm with the wrong person, yes, absolutely. If I'm with someone who isn't comfortable with a woman taking control, if someone has, they can think it's too much masculine energy, or they can think, if I say, because here's the thing, I know Suzie so well and I can say what Suzie likes and doesn't like.
Right.
If I say something, some men go, what, you don't like what I'm doing? And it's not that. It's just that I know what she likes. Like,
Right.
Come on. Like, let's just cut to the chase. Do you want to, keep doing what doesn't work? Or, you can, or I can be very verbal and say this is what works. So with the right person, it's been extremely advantageous. And because I know my body better than any man ever will.
Great question, a great lead in. Do you feel like you're a pro right now? Do you feel like you're a pro and making you feel good about yourself? If so, does it give a disadvantage to your love partner?
I'm definitely a professional. Yes. Like, I
Since 4.
yes. I have my tenure. I have many decades.
Right. I get it.
I mean, listen. The ironic part is that I don't think I've had a play date with Suzie in 5 or 6 days. So this isn't something that I do every day. I'll have periods of, when I'm really anxious.
Right.
But this is something that whenever I need her, she's there.
Because you're not self-harming yourself. And this is, again, where people lead to thinking that masturbation or self-pleasuring, like my mother, is a way of self-harming.
Absolutely not. And here's the thing. Listen, 88% of people do it. I say the other 12% are lying.
Okay.
I think they are too.
Okay, I'm not saying your parents are lying. I think that, I'm kidding when I say that. 88% of people do it. Supposedly, there's a percentage that just feels dirty about it and so forth.
Mathematician.
There you go.
Okay.
There
We
you
got
go.
stats. We got stats. Stats on stats on stats on stats.
I just think that I think what's important is that, throughout the years, Suzie has become Susan. And now I'm a woman.
She grew up.
And now she grew up, and it's not about, so as a child, this masturbation, which isn't a word I like to use. I like to use self-love. As a child, it was self-soothing. It was not about sex. That's not what it was about. And I want parents to know that. It is about just feeling good. It's like going out and throwing a ball. The only other time I felt that good growing up as a kid when I was in dance class or when I was on the stage dancing or, on a stage doing a play. It's that endorphin release. Right. It's very powerful.
Very.
And that's when my anxiety would decrease. So the more I'd masturbate, the better I felt. And as an adult now, Susan goes, and now as an adult, when my mind is developed, my brain is developed, my prefrontal cortex, I know how to handle anxiety in different ways. Now I know how to go to meditation. Now I know how to do different things that can help me. But as a child, I didn't, So now Susan's a little wiser. But at the end of the day, I also feel like I want this to be something that we can normalize, right? Because there's nothing wrong with pleasuring ourselves. And now as an adult, so let's leave the kid behind. As an adult, when people have the stigma with masturbation, why is it okay for someone else to touch you, but for you not to touch yourself? Right? And I think masturbation gets this, we call these slang terms wanking, jerking off. I mean, there's just, or spanking the monkey. That just sounds mean.
Bukkake.
I mean, all these.
The dolphin or something?
I mean, and that just sounds like animal torture.
What is that?
Right? Mm-hmm. Beating the meat. I mean, we're not butchers. Oof. It's like, so I just think that this is why I'm like, I want to call it self-love. It's self-love. That's what it is.
Thank you, Kendra.
Yeah.
Kirk, I had the most amazing facial.
Nice.
You know where I had it at?
Where?
Littell Arbib's salon, L&R Salon. It's actually kind of where you are.
That sounds really
by
fancy.
the Grove in Los Angeles.
I love it.
And she is a medical esthetician, and she specializes in body waxing, facials, of course, eyelash extensions, microblading,
Nice.
and so much more.
Cool.
You know where you can contact her? On Instagram at Littell Arbib, spelled LITALARBIB. Contact Littell at 323-704-6886. Again, 323-704-6886. The address is 304 South Edinburgh Avenue, Los Angeles, California, 90048. And tell her Queen ShanShan sent ya.
Nice.
Hunty!
So when we had an audience during the Fred Talks, I'm sitting in my chair again, or my seat, and you are speaking about Suzie. I am cringing. I'm going to be honest with you, Kendra. I'm cringing, but I'm also engaged. And I'm like, what? And so was the audience. They were like, what? But they were like, what? So we were all interested in what you were talking about at that particular time.
Well, it's fascinating to me because it depends where I do this piece. I do it as a live piece, and I'm happy to go to different organizations. I'd love to do it for a PTA meeting if anyone wants me to come and just share. I am taking Suzie on the road.
Imagine in my what is that? I'm 1902 in elementary school.
No.
And we hear a woman talking about masturbation.
No, PTA though, for the Parents Teachers Association.
Okay, you're right. I'm not a parent, but the PTA back in our PTA years.
Harper Valley.
Harper Valley with Barbara Eden. Oh God, we keep aging ourselves. Damn it, Edward. Yeah.
Now I think the parents and teachers are a little more open with Instagram and everything. Like,
we hope so. Maybe not in middle America, but I know on the
not
East,
on
West
the
Coast,
flyover states. But I will say this: when I did this piece at Comedy Central, Jill Soloway hosted, and she's very open about a sexual revolution, and she's incredible. She is just profound. She is the writer, creator of Transparent with Jeffrey Tambor.
Yes. Okay.
So she hosted the night I did the piece at, Comedy Central. And she came up to me after and she said, you have got to take Suzie on the road. You have to. I had a standing ovation. I had people on the floor laughing, clapping, crying from, laughter. Now, when I did this piece at the Fred Talk where we met, because it's a different setting, people didn't know how to react. I was not at a comedy show.
No.
So no longer did people feel entitled to laugh. So people were suddenly on the edge of their seat.
Yeah,
and I noticed them looking at their neighbor next to them.
I was.
Do I laugh?
That was me.
Do I awkwardly? And you know what's interesting is that there was someone there who I had dated. And he came to see me. And he said, I can't wait to see you. And then, we're going to do dinner next week, et cetera, et cetera. And I did the piece. And do you know I never heard from him again?
His loss.
And for the first couple of days, I thought, gosh, did I really turn him off? Was I too sexual? And I really did some thinking. I pondered on this. I really thought about this. And I had a conversation, because I'm very open, obviously, with a guy friend. And my guy friend said, well, I was there. He said, you made me uncomfortable. And I thought, if I'm in bed with this woman, I wouldn't know what to do. And so he said to me, he goes, you're so empowered with your own self that it's scary for some men.
Interesting.
Some men.
Some men. And that's when I knew this guy wasn't right for me.
Men.
That's when I knew this guy wasn't right for me. And I thought, and that's what's beautiful about this.
Right.
Is that it's okay to know yourself.
Sure.
And this is when you go, wow, I really have the power over my own body.
And isn't it it is power, right? Sex is a power.
It is a power.
Sex is
a
power,
super-
but
it's a
guess what?
superpower that we have.
Love
Love is even
is
more.
a power, and love is an energy, and that's all it is. That's all it is.
Preach, Kendra. Teenagers, teens. I was a teen. You were a teen. Edward was a teen. We were all inquisitive. And with being questioning about our bodies, we ask questions. And some teens go to their parents. Some teens go to their doctors, their therapists, or just their friends. And unfortunately, they may get the wrong information, especially from their friends. Instead of hoping that our children will come to us for guidance, when do you think it is a good time to talk about masturbation or self-pleasuring, self-loving, and the pros and cons of it?
I don't think that parents need to talk about it up front. Listen, I think that when they notice their child doing it in the Ralphs or Publix, if you're in Florida, which is where I'm from, and they're humping, do you? Go Florida.
Pubics.
Well, that would be apropos for humping the grocery cart. But when their child starts doing it, then it's okay to talk about it. Listen, here's the main thing. It's very important. I am not promoting masturbation, aka self-love. I am saying when they do it, don't shun them for it. That's it. So I think whatever age maybe the child never does it, and that's okay. I do have friends who didn't do it till they were 18, which shocks me, and that's okay. So I think that when, you'll know when the time is right.
What a teen will come to their parent or their friend, and they're going to ask point blank questions. How do you masturbate? How do you masturbate, Kendra?
I don't think that there's one size fits all. I actually know there's not a one size fits all. I was using hairbrushes and I was using remote controls that I'd then, give to my mom as I was watching Alf.
Things change over the years. You evolve.
Well, I used to have a rabbit. Yeah. I got rid of that. It wasn't.
Do you mean a vibrator rabbit?
A vibrator, yeah.
I was like, I don't know if you meant
not a real rabbit. My God.
No. I didn't know if you meant a teddy bear.
No, the rabbit.
Plushy toy. Did you know
the vibrator.
that? Did you know that supposedly? So I saw it. Google said, doesn't mean it's real, but that there were vibrators in homes before there were vacuum cleaners.
Unbelievable.
And TV sets.
Well, I mentioned to you when I was in Naples last year or 2 years ago, the city of Pompeii. They were very sexually open, the people of Pompeii, and they had sex rooms. The rich people had sex rooms, and they discovered that they worshipped the god Pan, and Pan was the half man, half goat god.
Yes.
And the depictions on the mosaics and the paintings were Pan having sex with women, having sex with prostitutes, having sex with multiple people. And Pan had a big old penis. It was Pan always depicted with a big old dick, and then they had jewelry.
Pan.
Okay. You're going to name your penis Pan?
Pan.
As long as it's not a Peter Pan, then we're good. Because
Never
Peter
mind.
Pan
Where Peter Pan came from?
never grows
Who
up.
knows? I don't know. Who knows? But I remember when I traveled to go to Naples.
Peter, because people call it Peter.
Pan.
That's what I said.
Peter
Peter Pan. Peter
Oh,
Pan.
he
Hello.
just had himself.
There could be a double
Entendre.
entendre there.
Entendre there.
But when I went to Italy and I went to Naples, it was the big famous museum in Naples. It had all the ruins from Pompeii and Herculaneum, and it's an amazing museum if you ever goes there. But they had a room called the Secret Room. And the secret room was all the sex stuff that they had. Now remember, this is a civilization that was 4,000 or 5,000 years ago, I believe, before the destruction of Pompeii with the volcano. These people, this civilization was sexually open.
Listen,
okay?
when you go into the gay clubs in Europe as well, dark rooms, girl.
They're dark rooms.
Yeah.
Everywhere. Yeah,
Yes.
they have them in the
They
United
have also
States
the
too.
baths as well.
But
Germany
it
is big too. I
quite
hear
common.
Berlin is quite
Yes.
common
Yeah.
as well.
Quite common.
You know what's fascinating is that because I spent time abroad this last year, quite a bit. I traversed the globe to really do a soul searching trip, and they're very open. They're not even sex parties; they're called love parties.
Oh, they love parties.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then just with millennials and whatnot, do you know that millennials are now not getting married as early and so forth because they're just self-pleasuring? And I think
Interesting.
I
it's beautiful.
believe it.
Interesting. A teen comes up and asks as well, is masturbation a kind of sex?
Listen, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a pediatrician. I am not a psychologist, psychiatrist, or any of that. But I can tell you that, again, I am a professional in the self-pleasure, field.
For yourself.
For myself. And, if sex, what is sex? If you're saying that sex is orgasming, listen, some people think that oral sex is sex.
Mm-hmm.
So if that's the case, then so is self-pleasure, Is sex just when you orgasm? I think sex is it's just like love. It's a hard thing to define. Is it sex? But I'll tell you, if it is sex, guess what? This is the safest way to have sex. There's no STDs when you
Hello?
self-pleasure.
Right.
You won't get anyone pregnant,
That's right. That's right.
and you feel good at the end of the day.
Okay. Right
Just a
on.
little
Absolutely.
clean up and you're on your way.
Tissues and you're done.
Tissues and socks. Sign me up. I'm coming to you as again, teen Kendra. Is masturbation safe? And when is too young? Is there a certain age that they should self-discover? What are your thoughts?
It's never too young to love yourself and pleasure yourself. Now, the thing is, if it affects your daily life, of course, but it's never too young to have self-curiosity. Is it safe? There's absolutely nothing that can go wrong in your life. No, you will not become blind. No, you will not, create 4 eyes, whatever it is. And so when my mom told me I would never become pregnant, it was very confusing. And in fact, masturbation is beneficial.
Wait, you're
Doctors
saying that you
say
really will not go blind if you masturbate?
I was already blind. I had bottle cap glasses, which is why the teacher moved me to the front of the room, and then I really couldn't masturbate. But
I'll be right back.
He's going to the restroom.
Please go to the
Try
restroom.
this out.
Where are you for the last 25 minutes?
It's actually, doctors now say, they come out and they say how amazing self-love is for yourself. It reduces stress, anxiety, tension. Your body releases these endorphins when you have orgasms. Even if you don't, your body still releases these endorphins. It's great for the mind, the body. It relieves menstrual cramping, as I said. For prostate cancer, it releases toxins in the body for men, where they have a less likely chance of getting prostate cancer.
So the message that I want to convey at the conclusion of this is that instead of using the word masturbate, you want to use the word self-love.
Yes,
and
we
self-love can be all definitions. I have issues with me personally, my insecurities about my self-image, my body image, the way that I perceive myself in front of others. We've talked about this on the shows many times, and I don't always have self-love. I was raised in a very strict conservative family, so masturbation was considered a sin for me. I must be honest, and so I've always had issues with masturbation. I don't feel that I am pretty. I don't always feel that I'm beautiful.
Girl,
so for me to self-discover,
hot.
what?
Thank you.
Yes.
Seriously.
For me to self-love in this type of level or this type of definition, I'm going to be honest, I have issues with it because of the shame that my parents have brought on the word masturbation. I don't have any sex toys. I haven't had any dildos or vibrators in my closet. I really got rid of them years and years and years ago.
But you
because
don't...
I do love the real penis. I want penis in my life.
And
so for me,
cock is great.
The cock is great.
The cock is great.
Yes.
But
that should be the title of the show. The cock is great.
The cock is great.
But you don't need toys. Like, that's the beautiful thing.
I don't need toys.
Self-love can be anything from literally just touching your vulva and going, I love you, you make me happy, to, reaching orgasm. You don't have to reach orgasm. It's so, and listen, again, to go back to what you said about back thousands of years ago, the Colosseum had an entrance for, above. I remember I was there on a tour, and above this one arch there was this phallic symbol, and at the time I said I wanted to reach out, and I said to my ex-husband, I said, and we are very good friends, and he loves that I'm doing this, and I said, I want to ask what that phallic symbol is. He goes, you're just seeing what you want to see. I said, no, I think it means something. And I asked the tour guide, and he said, yeah, that's where the prostitutes would enter. So this is something that's been going on for thousands and thousands of years. But when it comes to self-love, it's not one, like I said, one size fits all. It can be anything. It can be a simple touch of just, I love you. And then you don't have to, like I said, I haven't had a play date with Suzie in 6 days. But guess what? When I want her in 3 days and I go, okay, are you there? And she's always there. Because guess what? She's attached to me, so she's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I want to say thank you so much. This episode, this discussion, this conversation is mind-opening. I've discovered so much talking to you in the last 2 to 3 weeks about the show.
Good.
I'm going to be honest, Kendra, I was nervous.
No.
I was nervous. I was intrepidatious about it. I've talked to Edward about it. I was like, how are the viewers going to feel about this episode? How are my advertisers going to feel about the show? Do they want to be advertising the show? What'd you say?
We need more guests like her.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because this is stuff.
But I want to make sure my advertisers are okay with this.
Yeah.
I will have to ask them and say, hey, this show is about this and this and this episode. Are you okay still being being my sponsor? So I have to give them that option.
And I think
Absolutely.
I think that's okay. Everyone has their own way.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. But I want to say thank you. I am so grateful for you being here tonight.
And I'm looking at you right now, and I am just telling you, I am sitting in such gratitude. And people, may judge, but this is my story. And if someone judges my story, it's not my issue. This is my story, and I'm healing from the trauma I had, because I had a lot of trauma about this.
Good.
And
I'm not good, but yes. Not good, but it's good that you're getting out.
It's good to get it out.
Yes.
Talk about it.
Yes. And you know what? You're not the only one. That's the
Yeah.
thing. And I think this show is going to reach the masses.
Good. Well, I'm excited for my book.
Yes. And when is that book coming out? Let's talk about that.
So
Soon? You're still working on still developing the meat of the story.
We're still.
But in the meantime, where can people reach you? Where can they find the story about Suzie?
So you can go to my website, www.myplaydateswithsuzie.com, and it's Suzie.
Wonderful.
Yes.
And are you on Facebook, Instagram,
And they can
Twitters?
contact me there. I'm on Instagram, Kendra Waldman, and then Facebook, Kendra Sue Waldman. But for some reason, I didn't drop the middle name. My middle name's Sue, so I was like,
Wow.
oh, Sue,
Really?
Suzie.
That's
yeah,
interesting.
it's very
We
interesting.
can post all that on the.
We'll definitely post that in on the liner
Good.
notes.
And they can
obviously
contact me on my website. Yeah.
Absolutely. We're going to post everything on all the social medias because we want the story to be heard.
Yeah, and I'd love to talk to parents. I will even take calls from parents and just talk and speak
Education.
at any. Yeah,
We
absolutely.
should
education.
think about having you back on the show at a later date too.
Yeah,
to have
absolutely.
calls.
Yeah.
And when the
Yeah.
book
Yeah.
is published, definitely.
I would love to. Thank
You
you,
know what?
so much.
We have to acknowledge her too for this is her first podcast.
Oh,
Yes. It is my first podcast because I just started this
You
whole thing with
broke your
Suzie.
podcast hymen.
I
You
did.
sure
I popped
did.
my podcast cherry.
Woo!
Thank you for being on the show.
Thank you guys for having me. Thank you so much.
Madonna, Fassi. Speaking of sexual open-mindedness, Madonna is the queen of like
a virgin.
right. Speaking of
Yeah.
and we're gonna be all she's all about express yourself, pun definitely intended. Madonna has made news again by releasing a surprise album, and Edward called me. He literally called me. He was in glee, and you're like, oh my God, have you even looked at iTunes? I'm like, no, what's going on? What happened, Edward?
Well, Madonna surprised us last Friday and dropped Like a Prayer, the 30th
Anniversary.
I guess the 30th
Anniversary of the
issue,
song,
and
yeah.
it was
Wow.
actually pink. The cover was pink.
Mm-hmm.
There was a few new songs on it, but there was mostly remixes of like a Prayer and Express
Oh,
Yourself,
Father.
Oh Father, and like
Express
all those
Yourself.
great songs.
Mm-hmm.
But it was actually my partner told me about it. He was like, "You gotta." I was in Texas, and he was like, "You gotta listen to it." I was like, I called Shannon immediately. I was
Yeah.
like, "Girl, you gotta."
And I was like, what?
Get going on this.
Wow.
You
Getting,
can-
and of
you
course
can
I
find
downloaded it, and,
Yeah.
and like when he told me, I was like, what? Oh my God! I went on my phone. I'm like, ah! So it's a rehash of a lot of our other older songs, and then of course there's a my favorite "Oh Father" on there. But let's go back in 1992 when Madonna. Speaking about the topic of discussion tonight, Madonna released the Sex Book in October 21st, 1992.
Yes.
That book
It
featured.
shook the world.
There was hardly any writing in the book, but it was all photographs
Photos.
of her depicting sex with multiple partners, her sex masturbating or pleasuring herself, and sex with including sadomasochism. Now imagine 1992. The newsreels were crazy. Like the people were just the world was shook when this book came out. I mean, it was still plated. The book was still plated.
Still plated.
It was a coffee
The
table book.
binder.
Yeah, the binder was
Yes.
crazy.
I still have mine.
You still have your
I
book?
have two
Oh,
copies.
you have
actually.
one?
Oh my
I have
God.
two copies.
wow.
So Madonna is
I have
like,
a story. Can I tell it real quick?
Please.
So I bought this book in 1992. It came out in October 21st, 1992. I
Wow.
was 22. And I signed up for this book at the local bookstore, whatever it was called in Little Town, Texas. So they called me and said it was in. I went to pick it up. I was like the first one in line to pick it up in Beaumont, Texas. And I got interviewed on the news
shut it.
about this book. I sure did.
I wonder if you can find that newsreel on YouTube or
I'm
something
sure
like
it's out
that.
there in the universe somewhere.
On microfiche.
Yes, but man, she shook it up. People
She
were
sure
like,
did.
I mean, she was already shaking things up.
Yes, she was.
She brought the sex book out.
The
She's
sex
like-
book, and
she
then
just
erotica
dropped
came
the
out.
mic and walked off.
Yeah.
Do you know what I want to add here is that she was a pioneer.
Pioneer.
She really was paving the way. But you know what's so ironic is that even as sexual as I was masturbating, I didn't think about that. Because again, it goes back to me as a child. It was for anxiety.
Right.
I wasn't thinking of masturbation. This is what I want parents to know. It's not about sex. It was just self-soothing. So I didn't even think at the time because I was a kid.
Right.
I didn't think about it.
Right.
You know, and when I would sing like a virgin, I think we did a dance
Oh my
routine.
God. My mom
to
wouldn't
it.
even let me have the album. I had to buy the album. I had to buy the CD or the tape in secret. I couldn't have the Like a Virgin. Are you kidding me? That was a shut. That
white-
her and Prince.
White devil in your house, like, dancing around.
White Devil. I would go by White Devil. I wouldn't go there, but she did not like Madonna. My mom to this day does not like
My
Madonna.
mom calls Madonna. I don't know why he likes that Madonna. Not the other one.
Because there's 5 Madonnas
Yeah,
out
right.
there.
The Mother Mary.
Not the one from the Bible.
That Madonna.
Okay.
That Madonna. You like that
That
Madonna?
one. That
Madonna,
one.
we love you. Be on the show. We want you, bitch.
Yes.
And that's the Madonna Minute.
Just the facts, ma'am. Kendra, are you familiarized with what's going on with the Jussie Smollett case?
I am.
Okay. It's kind of devastating, isn't it?
Yes.
About what's going on.
Yes.
So we're going to just talk about the recent developments that
Yep.
just happened yesterday, which was March 26th. If you recall, on January 29th, Jussie Smollett known from the show Empire, accused 2 attackers of putting a noose around his neck, beating him, pouring a chemical on him, and yelling racial and homophobic slurs. Late, while the story develops, the Chicago police claimed that the alleged attack was staged. Jussie was then arrested for filing a false police report, paid $10,000 in restitution, and served only 2 days of community service. Although he was indicted from a grand jury, he claims his innocence to this day. So yesterday, March 26th, charges were dropped, and my jaw also dropped. Did your jaw drop too, Edward?
It did.
I was like, what? And we have a little sound bit from the actual prosecuting attorney. Listen to this.
Joseph Megatz had this to say about this whole situation. He does still believe that Jussie Smollett is guilty.
Does dropping the charges vindicate him?
No.
Does it exonerate him?
No.
Do you believe that he is innocent?
I do not believe he's innocent.
So you believe he's guilty?
Yes.
So why drop the charges?
Based on all the facts and circumstances, based on his lack of criminal background, I mean, we defer or do alternative prosecutions. In the last 2 years, we've done it on 5,700 other felony cases.
And Jussie really...
So, you got the prosecuting assistant saying they think that he's completely guilty. They think that he's not innocent of these charges, but this man is going away free. So my question is, does money let you really get away from, he's not with murder. The man didn't kill anybody, but he definitely riled the country up. What are your thoughts about this, Kendra and Edward?
I think for me, this is a very simple answer. This isn't about race. This isn't about his sexuality.
No.
I know he's a gay man. This is basically a hate crime hoax just gone wrong. And this, to me, is about a privileged person being stupid.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Heather said that. We
And
talked about
that's
this.
it.
We talked
This
about
is
this.
just...
Yeah.
We talked about this in depth on in episode 12, and Heather had a lot of stuff to say about it. And it's not about race. It's not about being a gay man. It's about you're stupid. You're an idiot. You come from this amazing show that gained notoriety. You're making $65,000 on an episode.
Per episode.
And you are now a greedy mofo.
Because you wanted a higher
You wanted
pay
this
raise.
attention. You wanted this higher.
Yeah.
Now he does sustain his innocence. He went on the interview yesterday on the newsreels, saying that he's not his. I would not be my mother's son if I did all this stuff just to create whatever drama, blah blah blah. To paraphrase what he said. Well, you know what, Jussie? The facts remain just the facts. The facts are that 2 Nigerian black men staged this attack for you. Now, they were videotaped buying rope. They were videotaped buying some chemical or whatever. They're videotaped. The correlation between the two is uncanny. Even Trump went on the Twitter today saying that he wants to file a federal investigation. Now, I can't say much about Trump and what he has to say, but the whole nation is like, what? Now, some in the black community are saying yay, 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 because a black man is getting away with an injustice like OJ, because there's so many black men incarcerated for, this may be a type of, reparation, if you want to use the word reparation, like, we got a black man that doesn't go to jail for this particular situation. I don't care if you're black or white, whatever. You're using a hate crime that diminishes real hate crimes. There are men and women out there who are killed, who died, like, again, what happened last week in New Zealand. Those people died because they're Muslims.
Yep.
Those people died because a white man was scared, and a white supremacy group who hates Muslims or Jewish people or Mexicans or Hispanics, black people like myself, they will kill people because of the race of because of the color of their skin or their religious indifferences. Jussie, what were you thinking? What were you thinking?
I think he's a master manipulator.
All I need to say is, like, you can see the stank face I have.
You're very stinky, right?
Not everybody else
Your
can see
face
it.
is very stank.
So it's just like, stank face is all I can say to you, Jussie. And now that you're going back to work, I guess, take some time and really...
Is Empire
I
having
don't
him
know.
back?
I don't know if he's going back to work yet, because they deleted him from the 2 last episodes. Right now, the other episode aired last night on Wednesday. I don't watch the show. So it aired last night, and he wasn't on the show. So I don't know if he's going to even have a future on the Empire show. But you know what? All those people, you work in the entertainment business, you guys. One show can employ 300 people. These people may not have a job beginning next season because of this man. You're affecting lives because of this lie.
It's like the Roseanne Barr scandal,
Yeah.
They shut down that show. But they did the right thing and made a series out of that show and brought
it's not doing well.
Everybody back.
Is it even on the TV anymore? Is that canceled? I don't know if it's even canceled.
But here's my thing. He needs to learn how to spell. That's all I'm going to say.
You is an E.
Oh, Jesus. Oh, that was his mom, like Heather says, his mom liked the U. Jussie. Stank face. Edward's giving us stank face. Real quick, the Fox News, and there was an analyst, Andrew Napolitano. He's on Fox News all the time. And yes, I watch Fox News, you guys. You got to have different opinions. You got to have different perspectives. I'm not a Fox News fan. Trust. I hate them. But I'm going to watch Fox News to see what the other people think about.
Right.
And he says that dropping the charges in a case like this is almost unheard of, and offered two possible explanations for alternatives. Either because the government could not prove the case beyond a reasonable doubt, notwithstanding evidence it has, or because it decided to grant Smollett what's called a deferred prosecution, which means a short period of probation, at the end of which the charges would be dismissed. A deferred prosecution would also expunge Smollett's record at the end of the probationary period. Jussie still can face federal charges. So this story is not over.
It's not over.
And that is just the facts, ma'am. Thank you for listening and continuing to subscribe to the podcast. Kendra, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Did you have a good time?
So I had a blast with you too.
Good. Your energy is amazing.
This was fun.
It's amazing.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah,
and this was really fun, therapeutic, enlightening, and this is what life's about.
Thank you. We welcome you, and we welcome you back.
Good. Can't wait.
Edward, thank you for being our amazing producer.
You are welcome.
Take a bow. Take a bow. Please join us next week as our guest co-host will be Rick Klinger. Yes, the bitch is back. And Haley Gautier as we discuss Coachella, being a social influencer, and the music festivals coming up this summer. A Broadcast podcast is brought to you by me, Queen ShanShan, with the help of Devin Carbaugh. Devin edits the show. Our amazing intro and outro music is by Joe Smith. Our art direction is brought to you by Theron Langhorn. For more information about the show at A Broad Productions, our brand new website, please follow us at Instagram at Queen ShanShan. Our Facebook fan page is A Broad Productions, and our Twitter account is A_broad_prod. I'm Queen ShanShan, and thank you for listening to Abroad.